I have been working on a book called A Field Guide to Congress, the Appropriations Process, so that I can break down how the appropriations process works so that you can advocate for yourself because you are the best lobbyist out there. I think the idea of faster, better, cheaper is something I've heard my entire career. You can get one. You can emphasize one of those. You're not going to get two, and you're certainly not going to get three. The ceiling tiles were on my desk, soaking through. I had a rat on my desk one day, live. It vacated. They're historical buildings, and I was in the new executive office building, not the old one. But it's there's always a sense of history.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Capital Spotlight. Today we're here with Adrienne Ramsay of Delphi
Strategies.
All
okay.
right, cool.
Look, keep it.
Why not? This is that type of episode.
Cheers.
We're just gonna go for it. Cheers to our waters. All right,
Water.
Delphi Strategies. We've got this. So you're the founder.
I am.
Tell us a little bit more about what you're up to these days.
So Delphi Strategies is my own company, and what I do is I help people understand how better to message themselves.
Cool.
I work in the seam between technology, operations, and policy, and I can talk the technical. I can bring that to the masses in a messaging campaign, whether you're talking within your company, whether you're talking to the executive branch, or to the Congress.
Very cool. So we'll definitely dive into the details of your career journey, but at a high level, could you kind of give people how you got here?
How I got here. First, good old dumb blind luck, and the ability to say yes at any time somebody offered me something new to try. I have what I like to call a chronic condition of ants in the pants. Where it kicks in when I need to try something new. I learn something, I get a handle on it, and then I go to something else. So I started in technology. My degrees are in physics and mathematics. I designed satellites, I designed missile defense systems, radars, etc. And then I got really tired of that, and somebody said, "You'd make great Hill staff." And I said, "Tell me more." And I got a Brookings Fellowship, and did that for a year as a Brookings Fellow in the Senate. And from there, I caught the bug, and I said, I want to do policy, and I want to do, actually, I don't want to do policy. I want to do money.
Okay.
Most of my time in federal service has been in the money side, whether it was the Congressional Budget Office, OMB, Appropriations. My one deviation was a short time on House Armed Services.
Okay.
And then the ants in the pants kicked back in. And I said, I want to try something new, and I want to take what I've learned in both the technology space and the policy space and the money space and help my clients figure out how to work government.
Very cool. All right, and then you've got something coming up soon, too.
I have been working on a book called A Field Guide to Congress, the Appropriations Process, so that I can break down how the appropriations process works so that you can advocate for yourself because you are the best lobbyist out there. And then I have a second thing that I'm working on, which is I am trying to pitch a pilot for a television show about my time on the Hill.
Very cool. Should we leave it there, or?
At this point, let's leave it there,
Okay.
But, call me back.
All right, yeah,
I'll happily
for the
come back.
follow-up.
Yes,
Cool, for sure.
Absolutely.
All right. So let's talk about the book real quick.
Yeah.
So you're seeing the audience as kind of the lobbyist world. Do you think it will apply to the appropriations staffer on the Hill, or is it general read for anyone who cares about this kind
I
of
would
thing?
love it to be a general read for anybody who wants to learn more about why Congress does what it does. I don't think it's necessarily for the lobbyists because I think that they have, let me phrase this, I think that they believe that they have knowledge and they know how it works. I would love this to be for anybody who is frustrated, who wants to advocate on a topic, and to break it down. As I said, my degrees are in physics and mathematics. I never ever thought that I would be a policy wonk or political in any way. I think it's really important to understand this. No school taught me this. As I said, I didn't specialize in political science. So having a practitioner's eye to this and the not talking about the high level, why Congress is where it is, but more of a, hey, if you want to do this, this is how you do it, is really who I'm looking for, whether it's educational or the person who just wants to break down what's happening on the news.
Where was your genesis for the love of policy? Where did it all start?
I'm not going to say it's a love of policy. I think it's the love of money.
Okay.
I
All
really,
right.
really think that money dictates policy. I also think that there's a piece of me that really wants to understand how the entire system of systems works, which is what makes me a great systems engineer. It makes me a great high-level analyst. It makes me a great advisor because I don't think about the trees. I think about the forest and how, what type of trees populate it. So I would love to break down. I love breaking down how things work.
Do you have any hot takes on money in politics that you'd like to throw out there?
I'm a follow the money type of gal. I'm not talking, campaign reform or anything like that. I'm talking like federal budgets. I think if you look at the federal budget and if you look at the congressional justification books associated with it, you're going to see where policy is going to actually come to fruition. I have a lot of people throughout my entire career who are like, well, this guy talked a big game. And my answer is does that guy have money to actually fund that big game? Again, it's a follow the money attitude. It's nice to have that sort of froth, but it is more froth than substance. And I think that people get lost in that. So.
Fair enough. Okay, so to start, you come from physics, mathematics. How do you make the jump, and how did it prepare you for this world?
So I don't know if it prepared me for anything, candidly. It was what I was good at. I was told at a very early age by my mom that I had two choices of a career. I could either become an engineer or I could become a mid-level drug dealer in a cartel. I think I chose poorly, but I chose the engineering.
Make more money.
Life expectancy is a little different,
Yeah.
but I was always interested in astronomy. I always loved the idea of satellites and going to space, and that STEM side of it was very natural to me. The poli-sci, the feelings, the philosophy was a lot harder because the problems didn't necessarily close. And I think it took a while for me to be interested in politics. For me, it was I was working federally funded programs through the Missile Defense Agency, and I was building I was proposing to build wonderful things. And it was the same stuff that my parents proposed 20 years earlier. And it was not fielded yet. And I just could not square that circle with why is this not coming to fruition? It is not technologically bounded per se. There has to be something else. And I was candidly bitching and moaning to a colleague one day, and he's like, oh, well, it's the Hill. And I'm like, the Hill? Who are these crazy people? And I'm sitting over in Crystal City. And he kind of looked at me like, how do you not know this? And I'm like, yeah. I remember the Schoolhouse Rock with the bill becomes a law, whatever. But what are you talking about? He's like, well, they fund us. Where do you think the money comes from? And I kind of leaned in and I said, I need to know more about this money thing. And I got a Brookings Fellowship.
Very
and
cool.
I did that in 2003. And went to work for Senator Patty Murray as her legislative assistant fellow. And I think it was July 17th or 19th. I can never remember the date, but it was the day the SAC-D bill came out. And it was a rush of adrenaline. It was just straight amazingness. We had secured $279 million worth of earmarks for the state of Washington. It was like fireworks and champagne and pure bubbly, and I'm like, ugh, that's the drug I want. I need to do this. So that is kind of what happened.
So the person that loves finite conclusions decided to go into politics, huh?
Yeah. Well, and the story is still being written.
But I guess like inside the budget world, there is more room for finite conclusions than more general policy topics. So that's good. At
Yeah,
least.
absolutely. And, I stayed mostly in the defense and intelligence worlds in my budget background. But budget theory, you can see the same sort of trends throughout all parts of the federal budget, which is really kind of fun. I mean, like, again, it's like watching the constellation spin. You get to see the same thing repeat over and over and over again. You're like, oh, I know that. Oh, I got that. Oh, that one looks like that. And you can kind of predict a little bit what's happening.
Do you have like a favorite stargazing place? Or are you more of an observatory type of person?
I actually like laying down on my driveway and just looking up and seeing what I can see.
Can you see much around here?
I live in the country, so
Okay, cool.
yeah. And you can see the big guys, and it's always fun to see the big guys every year. I mean, right now Orion's kind of high in the sky, and it's kind of fun.
All right.
Yeah.
Love that.
Well, there we go. There's a geek.
I wish I lived in a different time so I could just like observe the Milky Way in everyday life.
When you
know?
get to see something like that, you see exactly how small we are. And
Yeah, I think like it's really hard to understand how small we are, and it really humbles you, right? Because in the old days, people looked up at this every single night, and it inspires the imagination. It makes you ask so many questions. And today we're like, oh, I think that's a star. Oh no, it's a satellite.
It's a satellite, yeah. I would say if you want your dose of really cool pictures, the Vera Rubin Observatory is cranking them out like crazy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the few times that I have been able to see the Milky Way or, the Aurora Borealis it is breathtaking, and it is. I cannot imagine having that become mundane.
Yeah, no way. Do you dabble on the side still with the physics and mathematics world? Does it still interest you?
I am a recovering physicist, engineer. I can still do pieces of it, but I'm certainly not as skilled as I once was.
Gotcha.
It's just like anything, I used to be able to touch my toes as well. They are a distant memory for me.
Okay. So after you are a fellow, where do you go next from there?
So, as I said, the adrenaline rush from that July SAC-D bill was... I held on to it for a couple of months, and I started to look around for a place. I was on a fellowship, so I had to disentangle myself with my company, but there weren't very many spots. We were in the first part of the session, and I got a job over at the Congressional Budget Office, which is absolutely first among everybody on budget analysis and everything. As you probably know, but your people may not, CBO has two sides. One is the scoring side, one is the think tank side. I was on the think tank side. We wrote reports. I wrote one on the President Bush II's initiative to go back to the moon and Mars. I was part of that team. Again, wonderful deep dives into policy and budgetary implications. You only want to write your PhD or your master's thesis once or twice a lifetime. This was cranking it out. It was a level of detail which I appreciated being part of, but I don't think I could have sustained. So I stayed there for a very short time. I had interviewed with OMB. I cold called over to the director's office. I got a hold of one of their deputy directors, and my resume popped up again, and they're like, hey, are you interested? And I'm like, I just took a job with CBO. I can't say, I'm starting tomorrow. No. They're like, we'll call you back in 6 months. And they did.
Oh, wow.
And 10 months later, I was hired.
That's cool. All right, before we jump off of CBO, help us understand, I was on the Hill for 3 years. You hear it a lot, but I don't know the inner workings. How separate is it from Congress? What is its position in that world?
So that's a really great question because I'm not sure I can answer it correctly. I can tell you how it worked, how I felt it worked is probably the better way. Doug Holt-Eakin was our director. He would go over and he would testify on the budget and the like. I know that there was some sort of dotted line to the Speaker of the House.
Gotcha.
I don't know how much pressure there was on that, on the agency. I didn't feel any of that pressure because we were supposed to be nonpartisan.
Yeah.
Straight, let the money do the talking. Did we put our fingers on the scale when it came to the more think tanky stuff that we wrote? I'm going to say no, but we're human beings, so we do have spin in ourselves, even if we think that we're being nonpartisan. I would say that it is, on the scoring side, it's mathematical. So that's just what it is. Yeah. And I would certainly trust CBO over the executive branch, but granted, I'm a congressional person.
Yeah.
And I also worked for OMB, but I know that that's a bit more political, being part of the Office of the President of the Budget, or
For sure.
Executive Office of the President. I'm going to say it's like CRS, as nonpartisan as it can be. It's information to be utilized by Congress, for Congress, by So
I feel like you're a good type of person to be in a role like that because you come from a completely different world than politics, and so obviously you're going to have like inherent bias, but like it's probably not as much in your writing style as the person who's so heavily involved in politics or grew up in it.
I think you can have bias in anything, and you can put your finger on the scale however you'd like. I really like the idea of at least acknowledging that.
Yeah.
And look, members of Congress can ask CBO to do reports for them, and there were a couple that I worked on that were asked by members. They were looking for something.
Yeah, for sure.
Did we lean that way? I think we tried to address the question. My favorite documents that come out of CBO are their economic assumptions, always, as well as their every 2 years, at least when I was there, they did budget recommendations. So where to cut, where to add.
For sure.
Love those.
Oh, yeah.
I thought that those were fascinating tear sheets that I know that we were putting forward things that would never, ever happen politically, but it was fun to still write it.
I feel like sometimes whenever you have a job that's so into math or whatever it may be, sometimes when you get home at the end of the day, you don't want to do that stuff in your personal life. Are you like a big budgeter at home? Like, do you have a big spreadsheet?
No, my husband does that. He is also technical, so we can geek out together.
There you go.
If I say this is what I've done when he talks about his background, you got to close one eye so that you're not completely blinded. It's very funny that we kind of get along with each other, but yeah, like last night he was listening to a podcast on the cosmos, and he's like, "You need to listen to this," and I'm like, "I'm sorry, I'm listening to The Economist."
There you go.
So
okay, after CBO, you go over to OMB.
I do.
Another one where we hear a lot about,
Yes.
it has to deal with money, but like what's actually going on over there?
A lot of people who are dedicated to sharpening their pencils and doing great budgeting. I mean, again, I would say I feel the privilege of working for these two organizations. They taught me federal budgeting. A11 is one of my favorite documents to read. I always am interested on how OMB is changing, how they're doing their policy. I do find it interesting. OMB really depends on the director and what the director wants, but the core executive office of the president's staffing, these are dedicated civil servants, and I think it's one of the best places to work. Granted, one of the worst buildings when I was there. Hurricane had come through, and the ceiling tiles were on my desk, soaking through. I had a rat on my desk one day, live. It vacated. They're historical buildings, and I was in the new executive office building, not the old one. But it's there's always a sense of history. One of the nice things about these jobs is you don't always have to love the person, but you can respect the position.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think that that's something that I always took into this was the people are going to come and go. The position, the institution is what I respect.
Yeah, and I'm sure from the outside we assume being president is hard, right? Being in the White House is a hard job. But being on the inside, I'm sure you see just how quickly things are moving, how many decisions have to be made. What is that like?
I would say it's like riding a river. There are times when there are rapids. There are times when there are doldrums. Being on the inside is delightful. It's also hair-raising, and you are just trying to close the circle.
Yeah.
I used to say to my Leg Affairs people when I'd work with them, I am not rattling your cage for the fun of it. No, really. This is the deadline. And they're like, no, we need another 20 minutes to get this taken care of. I'm like, no. Give me the 80% solution rather than the 100% solution. Too late, because that's worthless to me. I think that, there's an allure to being on the inside, but I think that if you're passionate about something, create your own inside, create your own noise, and that's a good thing.
So whenever we've talked to people who've worked in the White House, they're kind of like, and in the West Wing, they're very much, we sacrificed our social life for those years. Like, I worked and that was it, except for Sundays maybe. Was it similar working on the OMB side of things? Was there a little bit of separation?
So I was an analyst. I interviewed there the day after Thanksgiving.
Okay.
As you are probably aware, they're building the budget right at that moment.
Yeah.
They're working on pass back. It was wonderful. I sacrificed my social life. This is where I'm going to say I've wrote proposals for a decade in industry where you work weekends, you work nights, it just is what it is. Yeah. So coming into this sort of arena was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, okay.
I did not expect to have every weekend off. You get the work done when you need to get the work done.
All right. Do you have any fun anecdotes of your time there of like
what?
Specific?
The rat and the ceiling tiles are
guess,
not?
Yeah, I'm so sorry to minimize those.
One of the perks of being part of the executive office of the president is, at least when I was there, over a 4-year period, 25% of each of the organizations get to go to the White House Christmas party. And my number came up my first year. And I remember going and standing in line, and this is the early aughts. I think that I never saw that many military people, except in like Afghanistan. Yeah. But they were all there, and it's a weird house. It's beautiful and historic and weird. Yeah. And we're waiting to get our picture, and then Chief of Staff Andy Card comes over, and my husband's, and he's like, "Are you enjoying yourself? And do you have everything?" And my husband's like, "No, this is great, but my drink is empty." And he handed his empty drink glass back to Andy Card, which was amazing. But the line was moving for the picture so fast that we just kind of kept going. And we get in there, and this was the weirdest thing. President Bush and Mrs. Bush, this was Bush too, the structure of how they set up these pictures is amazing, and it's a pattern. So they announce the people who are getting, and then the president, you step around to the president and the first lady, and they call out my husband's name, and my husband has a PhD, so he's doctor. And the president in this high-pitched tone goes, "Can I call you Doc?" And it kicks up on the end, and we are standing next to him. It's one of the best pictures we've ever taken. My husband and I are both dying laughing inside, and we are scooted out, and it was all of 30 seconds of this rotation, but it was just this absolute choreographed dance, which was delightful to be part of, wonderful experience, and we had a great picture that came off of
there
it.
You go.
So yeah,
shout out to the ops people over there.
They are amazing. Amazing.
So you were there for the entire first term, or
I was there for a little under 2 years of Bush 2, and then I called over to the House.
All right.
House flipped in 2006, and I said, "What the hell?" Called over to all 6 committees of jurisdiction that I wanted to work on. So House and Senate Appropriations, House and Senate Armed Services, and House and Senate Intelligence. And I got interviews on the House side, and the Senate was like, no. So, okay, fine, Senate. And I got 3 interviews. I got 2 offers, and I went to House Armed Services.
Okay.
And I was there for Mr. Skelton and Mr. Hunter, the senior. They were my chairman and ranking member. That was a wild ride, in a good way, also in a bad way. I mean, when you're asked to hit the ground running, and you have a whole new staff for the most part, because I would say maybe 10 or 20% of previous staff flipped, and most of them had been in the minority. Getting the processes down again, just hard.
Yeah, for sure.
We had a lot of very enthusiastic people. Direction was contained, but you still had a whole bunch of very enthusiastic people trying to do a lot. A year later, I was picked up by Appropriations.
Cool.
And that was Mr. Obie and Mr. Lewis were my chair and ranking member for full committee. Mr. Murtha and Mr. Young were RIP to both, were my chairman and ranking member on defense. There I slid in as the low man on the totem pole.
Yeah.
And it was a little different. I mean, again, I wasn't a Hill rat. I wasn't a Hill rat on armed services. So I was just more listening and trying to fit in. When I got to Appropriations, I just was running with them,
Cool.
just to try to learn as much as I could. And one of the things that I think I did right initially was when they said, who wants to learn how to write the bill? Because the guy who did it didn't want to do it anymore. My hand went straight up, and I'm like, me, right here. I want to do that. And everybody's like, oh, who cares about the bill? I want the report. And I'm like, okay, I want the bill.
Okay.
I
So
love
what
the
is
bill.
that like? Tell us more.
It's wild. Nobody reads it. Nobody knows
Not
it.
even the congressman.
Not even the Well, again, it is appropriations bills are, I think, much more interesting than people give them credit for.
Okay.
Again, I'm a dork. I love seeing the how each subcommittee rewrites them. But what's even more important, I think, are the general provisions. And you can see a lot of politics in the general provisions, and a lot of history in the general provisions. So again, in that system of systems sort of methodology that I like to use, the bill was absolutely the drug that I needed. And to stitch that together, you know, going from the president's budget request and the appendice into what we had passed last year to what we are going to try to propose this year, it was just a lot of fun to watch those currents.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
For the congressional staffer, someone who wants to get into politics, who wants to work on appropriations committee, how do they get there? Like, what kind of skills do they need to have coming into that job?
So I was a subject matter expert. I had experience outside of this. I had done a lot of different things. I was brought in, I would say, by pure dumb blind luck. I got along with people. I would say saying yes to whatever they need you to do and just stepping up to what you can do is absolutely what you should do to succeed in any job, because you never know what you are good at until you try it. And you don't know what you don't want to do until you try it.
Yeah.
You know, I would say it is making sure that people know what you want also. Nobody reads minds. My telepathy has never worked. But I do believe if you say to people on appropriations, hey, when you have a spot, I'd love to be considered.
Yeah.
You know, and working at OMB or a comptroller shop doesn't hurt. Luck, right place, right time is, I think, probably the best thing. Just keep trying.
I would say, like, from the outside, someone who's on the comm side, so I don't always understand policy, you know, but I think the thing that professional staff members are able to do is kind of hone all of their energy into like one topic compared to, so no, disagree?
It depends. It really, like, you can have a specialty, but you are a jack of all trades.
Okay.
Maybe on the authorizing side, you have a little bit more bench strength on the committee. So like Armed Services had about 100 people, at least on the House side, probably 70-30 majority-minority. On appropriations as a whole, the committee has about 100 people, but defense appropriations has, 11 to 15. You are just triaging as you can, and to minority, I should say. It is a willingness to be able to, pivot very quickly, know this much, and feel confident that you can answer the top-level questions and then figure out what you need to figure out next.
Gotcha.
You are probably more, you will be handed the issues that you are going to have to focus on depending on who your chairman is.
Gotcha.
Where I cared about my chairman and ranking member, and the rest of the bench was they're there, but they're going to have their own personal staff for the most part taking care of it. It was learning how to communicate and read what they were going to do.
Gotcha.
More so than anything else. But that sort of ability to have one topic, Legally Blonde 2-esque, where you are advocating for one thing.
Okay.
I think is a fiction.
So, like, in the typical congressional office, legislative assistant has their number of different policy issue areas, right? It's almost the same thing, but honed to defense.
Yeah.
Okay.
So when I first started there, my first portfolio was DoD space programs and the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency. After that, I picked up the National Reconnaissance Office.
Okay.
I then picked up later on, and all the time I'm writing the bill also. So then I picked up I went to O&M Navy, Marine Corps, Active and Reserve, O&M Defense-wide, environmental restoration. So, I went from $25 billion to $250 billion in the Court of Oversight. It was just okay, sure.
It's crazy.
It is kind of crazy, but I try to think of the authorizers are more strategic in focus. They're big picture. They're aspirational. Appropriations is very tactical. It's 1 year. You just have to get your bill done. Don't worry. You got 2 more bites at the apple. The Senate's going to take a swipe at it, and then you're going to go into conference. So you can correct some of your mistakes. You can, time is your best budget analyst. You're not writing for posterity.
Yeah.
You're
Okay.
writing for next year.
Cool.
So, again, appropriations is just a train that moves. It's on time sometimes, never. It leaves the station on time. It doesn't necessarily end up there, but it's just one of those things that you just know that it's going to repeat. It rhymes. It doesn't repeat.
Okay.
So you get to do something similar the next year.
I get frustrated when CRs keep passing over and over again. I assume you feel the same way?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Because, again, appropriations staff, appropriations members want their work to be enacted into law.
Yeah.
A CR is just a stopgap. And of course it drives us crazy. And people are like, well, why don't you just put this into the CR so we can have something? And the answer is just pass the appropriations bill. You're going to get it.
Yeah.
We want that. Shutdowns are the worst. But politics.
It's all part of the game, right?
All politics.
So one other question on that side of things is, do you think it's even possible to balance a budget at this point?
Yes.
Okay.
I think that the American people have to be ready to not punish the people, the members, who have to make hard decisions.
Yeah.
It's not going to be balanced via cutting. Revenue needs to be raised. And I'm using the term revenue to stand in for the T word, taxes. There has to be a will to do it. And if you're going to punish the people for making the right choices and the hard choices, why will they do it? The incentive structure's off.
Yeah, I mean, I think we live in a culture of instant gratification, right? And so it's extremely hard to think about not even like a process is going to take a year, but a process that might take decades to get there, and you just have to inch and inch towards it. Like that's difficult to get buy-in on when people feel like they don't have money right now, or a number of different reasons. But like, you got to think about the long-term benefit of the American culture, the political institution, our country. Like, something has to change, right?
Yes. I don't know what the forcing function will be. I think the idea of faster, better, cheaper is something I've heard my entire career. You can get one. You can emphasize one of those. You're not going to get 2, and you're certainly not going to get 3, in the same way that we have got to come to a reckoning of what it means to run the debt to GDP ratio that we have. If we try to grow out of this, inflation is going to come. This is not there's nothing magical about this. This is formulaic. I think it will take a tremendous amount of discipline to not get upset and to not feel beleaguered in order to correct this. But I think it is correctable.
Yeah. That's hard.
It's just hard.
And you gotta have leaders that decide to do the unpopular thing too, which is even more difficult in a political environment where the incentivization structures are all wrong too. So, yeah, it's
but
a
we the
difficult
people,
one.
I mean, we are the ones who can not just tell our leaders what we want. It's we can vote, we can interact, we can advocate, and we can understand when we don't get 100% of what we want, we get 50%, or we have to give up something. Again, I think you have to know the language, and to bring it back to what I'm working on, the book, A Field Guide, is meant to give people the language so that they can have these conversations and hopefully understand the ramifications of what they're doing.
That's great. Before we started, we were talking about Michael Lewis. You have some thoughts, but like, what?
He's wonderful. I'm not going on.
It was all great things. But like, what are some of your favorite books? Like, who are some of your favorite authors? Any recommendations?
So I am actually, it was just recommended to me, Washington by Meg Greenfield.
Okay.
Love it. It is a wonderful take on Washington as a whole, from she Pulitzer Prize winning, I believe, Washington Post. She used to run, I think, the opinions. She was an editor for the opinions page. Gotcha. That's been delightful and absolutely wonderful. I'm going to say Setting Course, which I see here, if you want to understand sort of like the personas of members of Congress and sort of start to think about why they're doing what they're doing. One of my other favorite ones is an ancient book called From Barbarians to Bureaucrats.
Okay.
It is the different personas, again, of the faces of a company.
Very cool.
And I think that has been very helpful for me. I like just reading The Economist and the back of cereal boxes and pretty much anything that's in front of me.
There you go.
Yeah. So those are my favorites.
I love that. Before we go, what else do you like to do outside of numbers, physics? I bet you still read the appropriations bill every year, right?
I do it less and less.
Okay.
I will say that what I do outside of my normal job between or among running Delphi Strategies and working with my clients and writing a book, which, might I simply say,
Not recommending to others.
Whoa. Speaking of a marathon, and then this television pilot that I'm trying to gain traction on. I love playing with my dogs. I love staring at the sky, not the sun, typically. I love reading murder mysteries.
Okay.
Huge fan of those. Not the gory ones, like the non-gory ones.
Gotcha.
Sleeping is also a huge thing in my house. Huge fan. Again, just normal things.
I love that. Well, we really appreciate this time.
Thank you.
Delphi, how did you come up? What was the inspiration?
So I have always loved Greek mythology.
Okay.
And I love the idea of the Oracle at Delphi. Translating what's on high to the normal people. I try not to speak in riddles, but that's where I came up with the name for that. And then I should also say I write a Substack called Let's Talk Congress and publish twice a month article, and always looking for ideas and questions and the like. So
very cool.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much for the time. This
Thank you
was great.
for this. This has absolutely been a delight.
Yeah, same here. Thank you for tuning into Capital Spotlight Podcast. If you enjoyed the show, be sure to subscribe to our channels to stay updated on new releases, share the show with your friends, and rate the show on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. For more from Connect, subscribe to our daily newsletters, follow us on social media, and check out our website, all at Capital Connect, capital with an O, CNCT. See you next time.